All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the end of the week. Welcome to a little bit of a red day. Welcome to Talkin Investing. Welcome, George. How are you?
I'm eating.
George is eating. Did you
I'm
not
always
eat
happy
today?
when I'm eating. Huh?
Yeah, that's
Food. I'm
Food-
always happier when I'm eating.
food is joy. It may be temporary fix, but in the moment, you've been on a diet.
Yeah?
How's it
I
going?
kinda I fell off the wagon.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, not doing so good, Tom.
Well,
I'm eating the right foods. I'm just eating too many of them.
moderation, calorie intake.
No audio, no video, RIOT Friday. The first thing George does is eat.
Yeah, let us know. Can everybody hear us, see us?
I'm eating their mind.
Are we-
I was a little disappointed today, Tom.
Well, I can't
With the
say that I
action.
blame you. Hold on. Let's put the chart up. I don't have the chart up. There it is. It's not pretty. So other than a shining beacon, TerraWolf, by the way, thank you, T, for a super chat. And T said, Wolf to 75. Well, that's my hope. Well, I hope that too. And they were green today, and they were the exception to the rule because we had one of those days again. It was a sell-off on Friday. Bitcoin kind of went down. The second half of the day was pretty flat, but it's way down. Well, not way down, but it's down from yesterday. We'll measure that. And the Bitcoin miners red across the board. But even with this red across the board day today, some of which were worse than others, the Bitcoin miners had a very good week compared to Bitcoin. So I will put that information out over the weekend like I always do. I tried to get that together right before the stream, but you know, there was only a very short amount of time between the market close and now. But I did take a glance, and we'll look at some of the charts. The Bitcoin miners did have a very, well, I'm going to say a very good week in relationship to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin had a rough week. We'll switch to the 1 day for a minute. So, I mean, you can see we peaked. Now, the 13th was the peak, and actually, technically, the 14th. So that was our high. It's now the 22nd. So that was Thursday. It's now the following Friday. So we are 8 days later, and we are down. As we speak, we're down about 14%. We did get down just under 18%. So the question was, the last time we all met, I think we did an impromptu live stream on Thursday, and everybody was feeling like the bottom was in. So I will be interested to see if everybody still feels that way or if we're getting a little worried based on this price action. If everybody could do us a great big favor and smash the like button. We have 37 likes. We're going for 500 likes. It helps the live stream out massively. It helps the channel out a lot. Thank you, everybody, for all the recent likes on the videos, on the live streams. Also, once again, thank you, everybody, for getting us to 20,000 subscribers. That's been our goal for a long time. I think we're 500 or 600 subscribers past that now. So we're still moving along, George.
Is the bottom in for first poll is the bottom in for BTC?
That's the question.
That's a yes or a no.
So if it is, it was just under an 18% pullback so far. The previous pullbacks in, we're about 16 months into this bull market. This was, I think, the 5th pullback. The other 4 have been between 20 and 23%. So this one was less than that so far. This one was just under 18. We'll round up and call it 18%. So is that going to be it? Is that the new norm? And there's funky things going on this week. There's some weird stuff going on with the Bitcoin ETFs. I have a theory. This is just simply my theory. I think it makes sense. So we'll talk about that. But the fact is, there were massive outflows. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Well, we'll look at it right now, in fact, and then we can look at it later when the rest of the group joins. we're still waiting for a lot of people to get here. So if you guys can help us, I know a bunch of you just did, but if you can smash the like button, it spreads the stream. We got to agree with the algorithm here on YouTube. We got to do their thing and play their game. So please help us. So
hang on, I gotta get sidebar because we're still waiting for people anyways.
Go ahead, sidebar.
Somebody said super low or no carbs, hopefully. That's what I don't eat really any carbs. But I'm still hungry. It doesn't matter. That's BS. If you work out and you eat, you're always hungry. Sorry.
Are you working out once a day? A lot of times, George will work out sometimes twice a day.
It just depends on the day.
I think a part of the thing is, George, also you work out and you use very heavy weights, and that does, listen, until you get past that curve, you're just hungry. It's just hard.
I know.
Dieting is just brutal.
My stomach's looking good though. You guys want to see it? No, I'm joking. Wrong stream. This ain't my OF account. Yeah. Tom's already in shock. I got his tongue. Okay, now we got more people.
I'm shocked. I'm stunned. I'm terrified. We
got a little push going. Yes.
You know what? This was the 15-minute candle close right here for the end of the trading day in U.S. markets. So, you know, we rallied into the close, but the thing was, while Bitcoin was rallying into the close, there was a little bit of a Friday afternoon sell-off in the Bitcoin miners. I mean, they were selling off all day, but you would have thought with this nice little pump in the last few hours that the miners would have recovered. That's what's been happening, and then some for the last really 5 or 6 days now. But also, the late Friday afternoon sell-off for the Bitcoin miners and for stocks is real. So that, you know, that kind of took over. MicroStrategy to 20K said, will the Friday live stream be on Thursday next week? Is it Good Friday next week?
Yeah, it is.
Man, that sneaks up. This is so early for Good Friday, isn't it? This is like, I guess maybe it's not as early.
Well, it's in March. I mean, it's kind of early.
That's early. So I don't. That's a good question. We will figure that out and put out a post to everybody.
We're gonna have to talk to management.
That's right.
We'll talk to management and get back to you.
All right. I believe management is George's wife. So we'll let you know. Kevin K, thank you for the super chat. Kevin K said, this for you, George. You look better than you did 2 years ago, George. Keep it up, man. It's
Thanks,
not
ma'am.
as easy as when you are younger.
Ain't that the truth?
You took the words right out of my mouth. Man, I am also dieting, and it is just not the same as it used to be. Weight used to just fly off. And
I'm gonna give you a little hint, guys. This is gonna be a good one. One of us colors our hair. I'm not saying who it is, but one of us do. And one of us has just been watching what they're eating and has less gray hair.
You think this is hair color? You know, it's funny. It depends on the lighting. In some of my videos, I look like I'm 100% gray. In some of my videos, it looks like I have black hair. It's and I have two different spots that I record from. On the live streams, I'm on a different computer, and I do think my hair looks a lot darker on this computer. Not that we care about these things.
Strongholds doomed. We've been saying that. We got some people from Buffalo in the house, Tom.
We got some people from Buffalo. Go Bills.
He just said go Bills.
Oh, it's snowing up there. I talked to my sister the other day, and she said it was snowing. So she's pretty close to Buffalo also. So
lost 50 pounds. Well, I found it.
You didn't find 50.
I know. I'm joking. I went above 300 pounds. That doesn't even seem right. You know that? Even saying it. Allentown. Oh my goodness.
You know what? We're all.
You know what's amazing? we looked at the stats of like who watches the channel, and did you know mainly it's people, well, in the United States first of all, but then mainly it's people from New York. Isn't that crazy?
And we
But
do
it's
have...
the financial capital. I guess it kind of makes sense.
That's right. There's a concentration in New York, but we have a lot of people from Canada. We have a lot of people from several different countries in Europe and other places around the world. So we're a small group, but yet still an international audience. But you are right. I mean, more than half of our audience is from the United States. And I think, a big part of the reason we have a bigger Canadian audience is a lot of these Bitcoin miners, are Canadian companies, or were. Many of them still are. So, Canada is in the ground floor on this publicly traded Bitcoin mining stuff. And as you guys know, Bitfarms is one of my personal favorites, not financial advice. It's one of my big positions. I think that they're doing a great job. Steven, thank you very much for the super chat. Much appreciated. Hi, Tom. I rebalanced the portfolio from 90% 10% Marathon Cleanspark to 55% 45% today. Would like to know your opinion on whether Cleanspark needs to do further offering this year for achieving 50 exahash. So I feel like to get, my answer to that is not this year, but I think that they will need to do another offering to get to 50 exahash. That's my opinion. That's what it looks like to me doing the math. They have been doing a great job of simultaneously getting machines, ordering the machines, getting them, timing that with, building out or buying, in some instances, their infrastructure. So they've been very methodical. They have a great plan, but they have not, they have by no means identified their infrastructure to get to 50 exahash, never mind buy their machines. So I do think there will be more dilution ahead. I don't know how much more, but let's put it this way. I mean, Riot's got a $750 million offering out there. Marathon's got a $1.5 billion offering out there. So, I don't think it'll be at all out of line with their competition. And thus far, just the percent that they've grown over the last couple of years is just staggering. And it's the reason I think they've just run so far out ahead of everybody else. I mean, the Cleanspark's stock performance is just decimating all the other Bitcoin miners. So that I think some of these will catch up. And that doesn't mean I think Cleanspark's going to slow down, because I think they're going to keep running. I think we're still, early on in this bull cycle. So, I think there's lots of room ahead, but we're going to get some surprises. We're going to get some bumps in the road. Everything's not going to be just, blue skies and this week and even today, like, I bet a lot of people did not see this coming. I mean, from the middle of the night last night to this morning, Bitcoin dropped 6% or $4,000. I mean, this is what's happening now. We're getting these $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 moves. Now, when you're between $60,000 and $70,000 as a percentage, it's not as much. So we're going to get bigger dollar moves, but these are even big moves as a percentage. These 5, 6, 7% moves in a day, these are big moves. Now, I do also think we're range bound. If we go to the 1 day, I mean, you can see we had this breakout back on February 26, 27, and 28. Once we got up to this point, which was about 62,000, we have held that since February 28th. We candlewicked way below it on March 5th. We almost tested it on March 19th. We did candlewick below it on March 20th, and we have held since there. So that's going to be the question, and that's kind of the question that I think we have right now. Is the bottom in for Bitcoin? This is almost this is a very, very close vote. So if you have not voted, cast your vote. This is So we're very close to 50-50 as to whether or not people think maybe we're going to retest our lows or even go lower potentially. I still have this gold or whatever color you want it box here. The top of this is, and I'll just put, you know, it's just over 59,000. That would be exactly a 20% pullback from our peak of 73,835, which is this purple line up here. So, you know, that was over a week ago. If we get a full 20% pullback, that is the top of this range. And then I think there's a, you know, I think there's a range. We've been getting between 20 and 23% pullbacks. So this box right here is from a 20 to a 25% pullback. So I still don't think, you know, it certainly should not shock anybody if we go, you know, bounce around inside of here, even if it's just for, you know, a little bit. So we'll see. You know, there was euphoria. It's funny how fast sentiment changes. You know, on the way up, it feels like, you know, the FOMO is real. I mean, and then as soon as things turn, you know, I don't want to say panic, but fear does set in. It just does. We're human beings. And, you know, that's how this works.
I'm always scared, Tom, every day. What happened to Iris?
Iris Energy was, did they finish over 10%? Oh, sorry. Iron.
Yeah.
Iron. So they put, there was some,
they will always be Iris to me, just so you know.
I agree. They're Iris to us.
That was interesting. Did something come out?
Something did come out. I will show you this, but to me, this always confuses me, and this has happened several times recently. This is
50,
really
50 on the poll.
Oh, wow. We are at exactly 50-50. That is incredible. 152 votes. That's a good count. If you're new, if you just got here, please do us a favor and smash the like button. Sorry, I keep repeating myself, but it does make a huge difference for the stream, so it is much appreciated. Also, if you are new here or if you're not new here and you have not yet subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. It is, of course, free to subscribe. We talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time. So with Iris Energy, I want to show people what happened with Iris Energy today. First, let's get to Darren. Darren, thank you for the super chat. Also, thank you for being a member. Also, congratulations on your call on Wolf. Darren was out ahead on this big time, and he's been calling for TeraWolf, and it was the only green Bitcoin miner today, so congrats on that. Darren said, please post daily candles chart that was pointed at you in the members Discord today.
Ouch.
I got to figure out how to get from here to there.
Discord?
Yeah, on this machine, I'm not in the right Discord. Is that a chart you can copy and send to me or something, and we'll try to make that.
You guys are being funny.
I'm on tech support's machine, so I'm in the wrong Discord right now. But we'll try to make that happen, Darren. So a $200 million at the market offering, but this is what I want to point out about that, because there have been a lot of instances, and I just feel like, to me, I had already priced this in, and I'm going to show you guys why. I did not think this was news in any way, shape, or form. Let's see. So, Form K6. This came out, I think, yesterday. And you'll see on March 21st, 2024, the company, let me get to the part. The company filed a new prospectus supplement relating to the offer and sale of its ordinary shares under the sales agreement, which reflects an increase of $200 million in the aggregate offering price from an aggregate of up to $300 million under the previously filed prospectus. So $300 million plus $200 million, that's $500 million. They do go on to say they've already used $261 million of this. But here's why, to me, this is a non-event, and it's really more of a technicality. I don't even consider this news because of this. they referred to their September filing. In this September filing was a $500 million filing. So you can see right here, Iris Energy Limited, $500 million. So they let us know this back in September. Now, if I scroll up and you go to explanatory notes, you're going to see a base prospectus that covers the offering, issuance, and sale of up to $500 million of the company's ordinary shares, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Different ways they can cut this up, but in total, $500 million. Then they say they have a sales agreement prospectus supplement that covers an offering of up to $300 million with B. Riley. So of the $500 million, you know, they authorized B. Riley to do the first $300 million. So now they've authorized the next $200 million, but it's still all the same $500 million that they very clearly told us back in September of 2023. I mean, you can't miss this. It's the first words on the top of the page. So I feel like there was a sell-off as a result of this. Everybody knew this was coming. So I don't know. I know the market loves to sell these things off, and sometimes they're just looking for an excuse to sell, but I don't think this was newsworthy. Well, I mean, obviously they need to report this to the SEC and their shareholders and everything, but this is not new news. This is just the continuation of the plan they already filed with the SEC back in September of 2023. So enough said about that. But this is why, you know, so this $200 million that looks like it came out yesterday made the stock, you know, tank a little bit worse. And I mean, to be honest, it's not like Iris was down 10.6%. BitDeer was down 10%. I mean, everything else was down 4 or 5 or 6%. You know, some of these were down 1 or 2, but we were red across the board. So it's not like this was wildly bigger sell-off than everything else. But it did have an impact. There's no doubt. Let's see. Clive, thank you for the super chat, and thanks for being a member. Clive said, I think fear often emerges when people fail to grasp the Bitcoin cycle. Your thoughts? There's no doubt. And I think here's always the fear. And so many people are out there saying, this time it's different. And a lot of them...
personal.
That's right. The part 2. You know, a lot of people are saying that, meaning in a good way. But because a lot of the old, you know, tried and true rules, and the truth is, I mean, there are no old rules. This thing is so new. You know, there's only been 3 cycles. So this last time around, you know, we broke almost every rule. And most recently, the rule we just broke is the Bitcoin has never even gotten close to its previous all-time high prior to the halving. So, you know, we now went past our all-time high a month and a half before the halving. That is a dramatic difference. It's often 3 or 6 or 9 months after the halving before Bitcoin hits its previous all-time high. So, you know, in that regard, this cycle is different, but it's one of many differences that this cycle is from the last time. But if you zoom out a little bit more than that, okay, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. We're doing a little bit better. I think everybody understands that the ETFs are probably a catalyst that kickstarted this thing a little bit sooner than in previous cycles. But I do think this cycle will be similar to previous cycles. I think we're still, you know, somewhere near the same point. Maybe we're a little bit ahead of schedule. A lot of people are calling, oh, everything's ahead of schedule. You know, we're going to peak a lot earlier. We're much closer to the top than people think. Well, we just tested our all-time high, and actually we got rejected. So, you know, it may take 1 or 2 or 3 tests to break out above that. And then typically, you know, in the past, we've had 200, 300, 400% moves. Obviously, you know, in the beginning when Bitcoin was tiny, you know, 10x's, 20x's. I don't think anybody's expecting those type of returns, but I think most people are expecting at least a double. Well, I shouldn't say that. Most people are expecting a significant move from the previous all-time high. Maybe that can be our next poll. It looks like this poll is destined to be pretty much gridlocked. Is the bottom in for Bitcoin? No, is pulling ahead a little bit. So I would say just by a little, and we're just under 200 votes.
I'm getting ready to close it to go on to the next poll.
And so I think the next poll, you know, what, if you don't mind, what do people think for the all-time high in this cycle? Right, where the previous cycle was, call it 70, it was 69, so 140 would be a double. Does anybody think we're going to do less than a double? I'll bet you a lot of people do. But I don't know. We'll see. So, you know, are we going to do a once and a half? Are we going to do a double? Are we going to do a triple? You know, and then you've got, you know, Pomp and other people out there talking about the super cycle that, you know, we're going to go way past that and we're not going to have a crypto winter and it's going to keep running and running. So I'm not sure about that either. I do think my personal opinion has been, I don't think we're going to have these 80, you know, 75, 80, 85% pullbacks anymore, but I do think we will have bear markets. And I think that because this is a more volatile asset by far than, you know, the regular equity markets, I think they will be a little bit worse. So 20% is a bear market, you know, for the equities. So, you know, we could easily still have, you know, 40% pullbacks. Midway, thank you for the super chat and thank you for being a member. Much appreciated. Let's see. Based on the amount of their ATM that Iris said they used, my theory is that they're now fully funded for 20 exahash and will announce it early next week. So that could fully funded for the machines, for the infrastructure, because it looks like, I think that, what was it, $261 million? So they're a little over halfway for the $500 million. So if they're fully funded to the 20, that would be really good news, because that means, you know, this thing that they're opening up is to start going beyond that in 2025. Right? Because if I go, let me just go, if you look at, this was on February 26th. They did have a monthly operational update after that, but this was, Iron provides 20 exahash expansion update. So you'll see Iron is pleased to provide an update on its expansion to 20 exahash in 2024. So H1 2024, 10 exahash. They're at 7 exahash right now, so they're expecting to do 3 more exahash between now and June 30th. Second half of the year, 10 exahash. Now, I will tell you, of this 10 exahash of machines that they have ordered, they really only committed to one of those being delivered in the short term. So I would love another update that has, you know, more comprehensive understanding. They're saying, you know, H2 of 2024, so they are targeting 20 exahash by December 31st, 2024. They're one of 4 companies that I'll call this, you know, the second 4 in my opinion, that are targeting 20 exahash. There's 4 companies above that, you know, are even bigger than that. So that's my 8 that I think are really pulling away from the pack. Iris Energy's one of them. And, you know, 20 exahash seems to be a little bit of that magic number that I think everybody's trying to at least, you know, document their plan, let people know we're getting to it. And obviously you need a lot more than documentation. They have placed purchase orders, put down deposits, and, you know, like Midway is speculating, they may have done a lot more than put down deposits. They may be getting near, you know, funding this 20 exahash. So if they did, you know, when they fully funded their 10 exahash, they did put out a press release. And they said, we have fully funded the 10. So, you know, to Midway's point, I don't know when that's going to come out, but I suspect they'll do the same thing. When they've funded to 20 exahash, I think they will come out and let us know. Now, the one thing that I think, you know, when they said they fully funded 10 exahash, the stock took off. And then when their financials came out and we saw a lot more dilution after that, the stock pulled way back. But, you know, that should have been expected. Again, they told us their goal wasn't 10 exahash, it was 20. So we knew more stock dilution was coming. All they were telling us is we've diluted, you know, we've funded ourselves to 10. And now they got to fund themselves to 20. Scott Richardson, thank you very much for the super chat, and also thank you for being a member. Much appreciated. Scott is saying CleanSpark to 100, just mentioned that hash rate just dropped 100. Please comment on this. Love the show. Thanks. Thank you very much, Scott. I know I try not to, I will tell you, I know that the hash rate jumps around. I don't know how reliable these numbers are. I don't know why sometimes there's wild moves to the upside and to the downside. So what I try to pay more attention to, now obviously, Scott, if this persists, if we see this persist for days or weeks, that will get my attention a little bit more. But I've seen these big swings on any given day or couple of days, and I don't know what accounts for them. I don't know if there's curtailment, in certain areas. I don't know what the answer is, but I would say I would look to wait. I still expect, let me go to this chart. So this is the difficulty level for Bitcoin. So, every 2 weeks this gets adjusted, and you'll see we've had the most recent adjustment was March 14th. All right, so that was 8 days ago, and it was almost 5.8% adjustment to the upside to another new all-time high. We had one little pullback, 2.9% to the downside, but the two preceding that were 7.33% increase in the difficulty level, 8.24% increase in the difficulty level. So, that was and remember, this compounds one on top of the other. So that was a massive increase. We pulled back just a little bit, and now the very next one, we're above that. So if we look, we're trending right now, and this can change. I'm going to refresh just to make sure this is the latest and greatest. But this is where we are in the next, essentially, what's theoretically 2 weeks. But it's, at block 836,640, we will have another difficulty adjustment change. We're more than halfway through, and it's been taking 10 minutes and 27 seconds. So that's about a half a minute longer. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but you'll see if this holds, we will have a little bit of a decrease in the difficulty level. That may happen in any one thing. I'm still expecting the difficulty level to rise. Now, what will be really interesting is we are now, I'm going to go to the clock, and, depending on where you go, these aren't all identical, but somewhere just under, we just ticked under 29 days according to this clock for the Bitcoin halving. So this is estimating April 20th. I've seen some as soon as April 18th. This is not a science because, again, we just looked at this. We don't know exactly how fast each block's going to get solved between now and then. So, but it will roughly be around April 20th. So that's going to be the real question, Scott, to follow up. Is there going to be a big drop-off in the global hash rate when the halving occurs? Because, that's instantaneously the reward is cut, and you'll see Bitcoin block reward will decrease from 6.25 to 3.125. So halving, it's getting cut in half, and that's the next block. So from that point forward, the reward is half what it was. So there will be a lot of machines that at this new smaller reward are not only not profitable, they're so unprofitable that they have to come offline. So there will be a lot of machines that will come offline. Some of these companies have gotten out ahead of this and already started swapping out the machines, while other companies actually have been plugging in every machine they have regardless of their efficiency, because they know whatever the machines are doing right now, it's still better than what they're going to be doing a month from now when the reward gets cut in half. So particularly the companies that are trying to hodl Bitcoin, I think that, a lot of those companies have plugged in machines they know for sure they're going to have to get rid of shortly, but they're going to get every last bit of processing out of those machines that they can. So what will be interesting, are we going to get a pullback? In the past, so far in every single Bitcoin halving, there is a slight pullback in the global hash rate, and then, as a function of that, the difficulty level. But it corrects itself very quickly. Anywhere from 2 weeks to, at the most, 2 months later, the global hash rate is higher than it was pre-halving in all the previous cycles. So again, we're going to see, does this cycle look like previous cycles? The reason that I think it will is we already know there are 8 publicly traded Bitcoin companies that have plans to double or triple or quadruple their exahash in the next, say 19 months. So I think there's a lot more coming online. We'll see how much comes offline, but that affects the economics of these companies in a big way. So that is definitely something to pay close attention to. Cleanspark to 100, thank you very much for the super chat, and thank you for being a member as well. As of today, for the month of March, Cleanspark has mined 578 Bitcoin, while 50% uptime Mara has mined 569. So, I mean, we are well through the month. That's another, if that's true, that will be another very disappointing month for Marathon. And a fantastic month for Cleanspark. Now, we know they grew their exahash by quite a bit, so it looks like they'll beat. I'll bring up that chart in a minute. They're one of only 2 companies beating their previous monthly totals lately. TeraWulf being the other one, so I'll show you that. But I mean, if this holds, if Cleanspark beats Marathon in the month of March, then that's 3 months in a row that Marathon will have had a very difficult, not great results. And these are the months, right? Most of these companies have done all they can to get as much processing power online as they can in these last waning moments while the reward is still at 6.25. So, to miss on these months is kind of a big deal, because the amount that you can hodl and add to your balance sheet, it's a lot easier at this level of reward than it will be a month from now. So, and we'll look at that. I got that chart up as well. There's only a few companies that are really hodling. So, and Marathon is one of them, and Cleanspark's one of them. So both of those companies are trying to add as much Bitcoin to their balance sheet as they can. Marathon does have, of all the Bitcoin mining companies, they have the most Bitcoin on their balance sheet by far. I think they're maybe the 3rd or 4th highest amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet of any publicly traded company. Obviously, distantly behind MicroStrategy. That does not include, people who are holding custody of Bitcoin, like the ETFs and things like that. This is publicly traded companies with their own Bitcoin. So let me just bring this chart up. So this is December, January, and February. So you'll see Marathon, I did a video on this. Marathon had an out-of-this-world month in December. The stars aligned for them. Everything went exactly right, and they just crushed it. This is the best month of the last 3 years for any company, and I don't think there's any, all the way through the next halving. I don't think anybody can mine this much again in a month. The reward's about to get cut in half. So, this was an anomaly. But they got the benefit of it, so it counts. Then in January, so it looks like January was catastrophic, but it was, everybody was down about 20% in January. It did vary from company to company. Marathon still mined over 1,000 Bitcoin, and they did just beat Core Scientific. But you'll see in February, Marathon was down 23%. That was the worst one on the page, right? Except you got to go all the way down to these below the line are much, much, much smaller companies, and they mine, you can see, much less Bitcoin. So the drop off from this line down from 364 down to 200, and then, down to less than 100. So, of the companies that mine a lot of Bitcoin, there were only 2 companies that were up month over month. That was Cleanspark from 577 to 648, and TeraWulf from 313 to 364. So thank you, Cleanspark to 100, for the information. It looks like Cleanspark is on track to probably beat this. So they're on track to go up month over month. I'm speculating, but I think TeraWulf will take a run at beating the month of February. Now, there is a benefit. Obviously March has 2 more days than February, so all the companies stand a better chance of having better comparative numbers, but the difficulty level did go up, so we'll have to see what happens. But you'll see Marathon only mined 833 Bitcoin last month. It looks like they're on track to not necessarily even do that in the month of March. That would be a bad result. So we'll wait and see what happens. Let's get back to the Bitcoin chart. So let's take a look. All-time high Bitcoin this cycle. So 85,000 to 100, 20%. 100,000 to 125,000, 12%. 125 to 150, so there's your double. Everything below that isn't even a double in this cycle. So 25% think we're going to get from 125 to 150, and 42%, so the not a majority, but the largest vote getter is over 150,000 at 43%. So I will tell you
80-20. 80-20 where we're getting over 100,000.
Yeah, and in my opinion, I mean, I think 100,000 is a very, to me, that would be a very bad result. So I would be disappointed at 100,000. You know, at 130, I'm not going to be shocked by any means. I do have a higher price point than that. I think we're going to do better than people think. So I'm certainly in the over.
You're over the 150?
I'm over the 150. So
tell me what number you're thinking.
I've been saying, you know, I was kind of saying 175, 150 to 200. So the average is 175, but anything in that range isn't going to surprise me. I do think if we get over 200, and I've heard a lot of people with much higher numbers than that. So, you know, this group, 43% think over 150. Would be interesting to see how much higher people would go. But, I mean, 140 is only a double. And I know it's been getting less with each halving, but we've never had a halving with catalysts like this one. We've never had Bitcoin this mature. We have trillions of dollars of money that in the previous cycle, 0% of that was in Bitcoin. And that the door has now opened. So obviously it's not the floodgates opening. You know, just because trillions of dollars now have access doesn't mean it's all going in there. But even if some small percentage goes in, I think it's going to cause more of an effect on the supply-demand situation than people are giving credit to. And, you know, we have a short period of time where all of a sudden, the last 4 days in a row, there's been an outflow in the Bitcoin spot ETFs. But I'm going to look at that. I have a couple of theories on that as to what's going on. And I do think that is a very, very short-term trend that will end sooner than later. I expect next week we'll go back to inflows again. Last week was the biggest week of inflows since they opened. This week we had the biggest week of outflows since the spot ETF started. So, you know, just a big contrast there. But I do think it's a temporary situation. I think money's only just begun to move into these things. And it will ebb and flow. We'll have some weeks will be better than others, as we just saw. I mean, we just had a giant swing. And I think there's a specific reason for that. We're seeing, let me show the numbers. And then I'll tell you what I'm thinking. Let me find that. So first of all, here's the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. So you can see this was the first day that the ETFs came into existence on January 11th. So just a little bit that first day. But then right away, you know, for a couple of weeks, this was like $500 million a day. And then it tapered way off for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then now all of a sudden, you know, with a couple of anomalies, we're still back to somewhere between, you know, $300 to $500 million of outflow a day. We had $642 million of outflow on Monday of this week. So the Grayscale Trust outflow has been massive. So let me just go to this one real quickly. Let me see if I can find this. So this is as of today. They now have 355,000 Bitcoin. They had 620,000 Bitcoin when this thing converted from the Grayscale Trust to the Spot ETF. So, you can see the outflows here. That's a quarter of a million, more than a quarter of a million Bitcoin has come out of the Grayscale Trust. We know that Genesis is a portion of this. There are other companies that had money tied up. The fee structure here dictates that people are going to be leaving this. It's 6 times the fee that BlackRock is charging. You can see 1.5%. So it's the most out of any of the Bitcoin spot ETFs by a mile. So I don't know what their strategy is. They came out 2 days ago and had a generic statement that said you can expect that we will be decreasing our fees. But no plan, nothing, no when. They didn't say when they're going to do it. They didn't say by how much they're going to do it. I think they just see these massive outflows and they wanted to put some statement out there to see if they could stem the tide. But, unless they make a dramatic change. Now, on the flip side, in the very short term, because the price of Bitcoin goes up, they're still collecting, massive, massive fees. But what good is that ultimately if your assets under management go to zero at the end of the day? They're not. This is not a short-term thing. So, and the bottom line is, they've gone from 620,000 to from 620,000 plus Bitcoin to 355,000. At some point, if this keeps going, this will get to zero. So this sell pressure, there is an expiration date on this. There's no expiration date on the buying pressure for all of these companies that have spot ETFs. All the retail investors, institutions now have a way to move in. And, we've still got over $6 trillion in money market funds sitting on the sidelines. So there's just, trillions of dollars here, trillions of dollars there, all waiting for some small 1%, 2%, 3% of that money moves into Bitcoin. And I think you're going to see us far outpace this $150,000. And remember, if this cycle is similar to the last cycle, we really have until mid to late 2025 to peak on Bitcoin. That would be, what has happened in the past. Now, we are ahead of schedule at the moment. So is that going to hold true? Are we going to peak sooner? I don't know. Nobody knows. Any thoughts, George, before I go to the next chart?
No.
Thoughts,
no
comments?
Thoughts.
We'll take a quick peek.
No, I'm waiting for the 5 o'clock pump to start.
Ah, yes.
63,501. Not happy with that price action.
I know. Well, we had our poll I think, what was it, 53%?
Yeah.
Think that we're going to retest those lows, which would be, under 61,000. 59,000 would be that full 20% pullback. So, okay, so this is the last 2 weeks of the Bitcoin spot ETF. So you can see them listed out. You'll see, Grayscale jumps out at you, all these giant red numbers right here. Every single day since these started, Grayscale has been in the red. This is a mass exodus. People are leaving this, whether it's $1/3 billion or $500 million a day. It just continues to go out. But you'll see, last week, these 5 days, this was over $1 billion of inflow in one day. That's the only time that's happened. And the very next day was the second best day that the spot ETFs have ever had. So, yeah, there's been a cool off now. So, whereas Grayscale continues to have Bitcoin pour out, the inflow on these has backed off a little bit this week. And we've had an outflow. But you'll notice, Bitcoin is down on the week, but it's not like, this is $1 billion of outflow. That did not tank Bitcoin. Bitcoin's trading very nicely inside of a range here, right? I mean, we got up to 61,000 on February 29th. You can even go, other than this 1 day down and 1 day above, we've really held 63,000 for every single day except this one for the last several weeks. So, from 63 to 73,000, granted, that's a big range, but we're at big numbers now. So that's been the trading range. We might get lower than that. Again, I got this box from 20 to 25%. That would be of a pullback from our new all-time high that we just hit. But my point of that is, with $1 billion of outflow, and we are used to having $1 billion or more of inflow on these spot ETFs in a week. So we had the reverse this week, and Bitcoin still, you know, yeah, it pulled back a little bit, but it was not catastrophic. We did not see, and we know what Bitcoin can do. You know, the volatility to the upside, the volatility to the downside, but we didn't get a monster sell-off. This still held. In fact, on one of these days, I mean, look at this gigantic green candle. This was Wednesday. So if we go back to this chart, on Wednesday, we had $261 million of outflow out of the ETFs, and Bitcoin was up on the day. Now, that's a 10% candle. I mean, that's a massive candle to the upside on a day where there was outflows. So I think this is very encouraging price action. I'm not saying it's a bottom. Again, all of this is still in play. All these lines here, I would be surprised. I do still see, I won't say a lot. I see several people still talking about this $52,000 mark. Who knows? Maybe. Right from the top to the bottom, that'd be almost 30% pullback. Now, I will tell you, in previous bull cycles, the standard issue pullback was more like 30%. But we haven't had a 30% pullback in a year and a half. So I'm just not seeing that. Obviously, you know, I can't say it's impossible. Certainly could happen, but I think it's more likely that we go up from here than we go all the way down to 52. But time will tell. So the end of this was over 150,000 at 40%. Came in first place. And 100,000 to 125,000 at 15% came in last place. So, did you hear this thing about Ethereum?
Which aspect?
I was pulling a George. That's how you usually.
Did you like how I heard about it? I heard about it. Yes, I did. That's why they went up.
So
now they're down.
I got a couple of. We'll take a minor detour here to Ethereum. You can do a poll. Can you do me a favor, or I'll do it if you want.
Yeah,
a poll.
I got it. No worries.
Who's in Ethereum? Who owns Ethereum or is considering buying Ethereum? Well, you can do own it, consider buying it, don't own it.
I did. Who's in ETH?
Boom, done. So we'll see. I am not in Ethereum. I have been on record that I do not think we're going to get the Ethereum spot ETFs in May. And I'm not saying they're never going to happen. I believe that would be an unbelievably accelerated pace versus what happened to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is a much clearer case than Ethereum. So I just have remained very skeptical. I try to be skeptical by nature. But this is what's come out. There's a bunch of stuff on this.
Have you changed your mind about ETH, or no? Do you still not?
No,
like
now I feel 10 times what I felt, that we're not going to get an ETF in May. So, Ethereum Foundation faces inquiry from a government. Fortune says the SEC is investigating Ethereum. After the publication of this article, Fortune reported that the SEC seeks to classify ETH as a security. George, you alluded to this on the last live stream, that they were looking to do this, so you did bring this up last time. But they've long been looking to do this. Now, I know a lot of people feel like maybe they gave up hope, but guess what? I guess they didn't. And I think, you know, a lot of people say, well, the previous the previous head of the SEC said it was a commodity, but there's a lot of things that changed. But most significantly and fundamentally, that Ethereum was proof of work at that time. It is now proof of stake, and that is just a monumental, fundamental change. And you guys can argue amongst yourselves which one you think is better or worse, and I'm sure there's pros and cons to each. I personally think proof of work is the only way for me. I guess that maybe makes me a bit of a Bitcoin maximalist, but proof of stake opens a lot of other doors that proof of work, avoids, in my opinion. And one of those doors is it reopens the door for the SEC to say, wait a second, you're now a different thing, and that thing's a security. So I don't know that they're going to prevail. My guess is they don't even think they're going to prevail at the end of the day in calling Ethereum a security. But they do. I mean, Gary Gensler has been no friend of cryptocurrency. In fact, I don't know if I opened this or not, but they requested a bunch more money to hire a bunch of additional people at the SEC to crack down on cryptocurrency. So now, of course, every department in the government requests more money with each new budget. So that's not exactly shocking. But that article came out today. So there's this that leads me to believe, we're not getting this anytime soon. And then even if we do get it, if you remember, there was an article that came out, some prominent analyst said they think there's going to be more buying in the Ethereum ETFs than in the Bitcoin ETFs. So they thought they were going to outpace the Bitcoin ETFs. We did a poll. There were some people that did agree with that. So BlackRock today came out and said this. BlackRock seeing only, quote, a little bit of demand for Ethereum from clients, says the head of digital assets. Robert Michnik, that's what I'll go with. Apologize if that's incorrect. The asset manager's head of digital assets said that there's a misconception that BlackRock will have a, quote, long tail of other crypto services. The asset management giant BlackRock clients have, quote, a little bit of interest in Ethereum compared to Bitcoin. Head of digital assets, Robert Michnik, said, quote, I can say that for our client base, Bitcoin is overwhelmingly the number one focus and a little bit of Ethereum. And then he goes on to say, down below here, there's one last sentence. For every other crypto asset, he said, demand is very, very little. So that goes to our conversation we've had on this channel many times, that there's Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, which now is of a market cap. It's its own thing. I know technically there's Bitcoin and everything else is an altcoin, but Ethereum has almost $500 billion market cap. It's its own thing. But from there, the drop-off is so dramatic that, everything else you can see very, very little interest from, this is from traditional investors, obviously. So, there's cryptocurrency people are different. And I'm not saying, amongst cryptocurrency people, I know we have our cycle and, Bitcoin dominance, and then, Ethereum has its run. And right now it seems like there's some meme coins that are off to the races. Solana's, beating everything. And, then, altcoins have their turn. So I do think we'll still have all of that. But in the big picture, if I go to, where is this? I mean, if you look at the chart, Bitcoin's market cap is about $1.25 trillion. Ethereum's is now $400 billion. And then the next closest is Binance at $80 billion. So Ethereum's 5 times bigger than the third biggest cryptocurrency. Obviously, in the middle, you'll see a stable coin, Tether, which is now over $100 billion. Solana is neck and neck with the Binance coin. I think everybody expects that that will pass the Binance coin. You guys can let me know if you think differently.
People like that better than ETH now.
Solana.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people that say it's going to flip. It's going to flip Ethereum. I find that very difficult to believe. I'm just looking at the numbers, you know, and I am not a person that has done a massive deep dive on Ethereum and Solana and can tell you the ins and outs of the use cases and all those other things. I'm just looking at, you know, the history from the beginning of time until now and the massive, massive difference in market cap. And it seems hard for me to believe, particularly since for as much as Solana has some, you know, short-term massive momentum, there's a lot of Ethereum purists. You know, I know there's the Bitcoin maximalists, but there's a lot of people that are all in on Ethereum. I've seen a lot of the crypto YouTubers that I try to keep my eye on because, you know, the cryptocurrency universe, George knows more about than I do. I try to stay at least in the loop, but I will tell you, several of them have said they're out of Bitcoin and, you know, heavy into their number one holding being Ethereum. So obviously that is not me. I disagree with that strongly. I see Cleanspark 100 saying only Bitcoin, there is no second best. Crypto Fever said Solana is only a vehicle to acquire more Bitcoin for the long run for me. And I think a lot of people do that, and that's a good point, Crypto Fever. I think one of the strategies in altcoin season or when some of these other coins take off is catch the run on those. You know, if they're going to move at 2 or 3 times what Bitcoin's doing in the short term, catch that run, take those profits and invest it in Bitcoin, which is, you know, a lot of people's long-term buy and hold. All the other altcoins don't have as many, you know, buy and hold dedicated people. Potentially Ethereum, you know, is heading that way, but I don't know. I remain skeptical of Ethereum. Not that it's going to go away or anything, and I do think it will still maintain its position in second place. I just don't think it will ever. There's a lot of other people, you know, there's some people who think Solana is going to flip Ethereum. There's some people that think Ethereum is going to flip Bitcoin. So I don't think either one of those things are going to happen. I think those are unlikely scenarios. No different than, you know, thinking that silver is somehow going to flip gold. Yes, silver is by far the second biggest commodity, but it's not anywhere near gold, and it never will be. In my opinion. Midway said Ethereum is my number 2, but it only makes up about 15 to 20% of my overall investment portfolio. So yeah, I mean, if I knew, you guys know for me, I spend all of my time on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. So it is really hard for me to get up to speed in all of these altcoins enough to be trading in and out successfully. I would really just have to be watching other YouTubers just doing what they say and hoping it all works out for me. And I don't ever do that. I would recommend that nobody ever does that because, you know, it's your money. It's not their money. So, you know, only you know how to invest your own money. Of course. So we're having, you know, we got a long weekend, so we'll see where we're going. We moved down a little bit since the close on the 15 minutes. So this is what I'm going to be looking for over the weekend. Where are we going? Are we going to retest? I've got a line that we retested a few days ago, just over $61,000. So can we hold? We candle wicked below that, but held. So that's one stop point. We've got $59,000. That's a 20% pullback. And anywhere from 59 down to, you know, about 55.5 those are possible. I really will be surprised if we get to the bottom of this range. But I am, this is over the history of Bitcoin. The 20 to 25% pullback is on the low end. Now, like I said, the last 16 months, we haven't even had one 25% pullback. But prior to that, 30% was standard operating procedure. 30%, 35%. We had some 50%. Inside of, and I'm not talking about the crypto winter. I'm talking about in the middle of the bull market cycle, we have 50% pullbacks in the past. I don't believe that's going to happen this time, but that's when you always got to be careful. Anything can happen, especially with these volatile assets. Cryptocurrency is the king of volatility. Let me just take a quick look at what else I had. So for those of you following along, Cathie Wood is reiterating her $1.5 million price target. But what I wanted to look at, and I will tell you, I almost feel like Cathie Wood just says a lot of things to raise her profile and just, get more interest in ARK Invest. She does, these guys put out, their math behind all this stuff. So, they draw out their case scenarios, but they're very bullish on certain things, like incredibly more bullish than the overall market on the things that they invest in. So what I wanted to show is she's reiterating $1.5 million, but ARK Invest CEO Cathie Wood called Bitcoin a financial superhighway, emphasizing the important use cases for the cryptocurrency in emerging markets. And, there was something out there on El Salvador again today. Let me find what I'm looking for. Wood said that with more institutions entering this space, mathematically speaking, Bitcoin's price could easily rise above $3.5 million. However, she wouldn't give a new specific price target. So, 1.5, 3.5 million, even if you think that's going to take 10 or 15 years, if it's going to get to anywhere from 1.5 to 3.5 million dollars per Bitcoin, this will be, these opportunities do not come along. This is not how stuff works. So let's do just a new poll.
New poll.
Who's in ETH? So we do have 43% invested in ETH. That's a decent amount. So who thinks Bitcoin can hit $1.5 million in the next 8 years? That's the next 2 full cycles. And Cathie Wood thinks it's going to happen faster than that. But who thinks in the next 8 years? Josh, I just happened to catch my eye. It's hard for me to keep up with the chat, but every once in a while something does catch my eye. Said, Tom, do you think Bitcoin's a currency or an asset? So to me, I think that Bitcoin is an asset. I think it's a store of value. I think that it is, they call it digital gold. It has all the properties of gold, in my opinion, only better, right? The fixed supply is in fact a fixed supply, whereas we know gold's supply has gone up drastically just in my lifetime, and we don't know where the ultimate supply of what the total supply of gold is.
So do you think Bitcoin in the next 8 years hits 1.5 in US
Yes.
fiat?
Well stated.
Fiat, it sounds like this is dirty money.
Sourmelon Games is asking, did anyone else add to Iris Energy today? The only reason I didn't is I added early in the week. Iris Energy, I think I got it at $4.36. These things pulled way back. So I took my opportunity. I got Iris in the low 4s. I got CleanSpark, sorry, I got Riot at $10.70. And then I got Marathon at $17.72. So I feel like those were great buy the dip dollar cost averages. So even with this giant move back in Iris Energy today, it still didn't get anywhere near back to where I dollar cost averaged in. And I had already made a purchase this week, so I didn't want to double down when it wasn't even at the price I just bought it at. But for those of you, if you had not yet dollar cost average, down 10% may have been a fantastic opportunity today. Right? This was an across the board red day. We have not had, it was the only one this week really. So
I'm leaving what Crypto Beaver's saying about gold. He's like, I wouldn't own it for 1 penny. No. If my family members gave it to me, I'd return it.
Just sell it and buy Bitcoin.
If Bitcoin goes to 1.5, market cap would be over $30 trillion.
Right. So by that point, that'll probably be at least, I think gold's at 13 trillion right now. And, you know, you can assume over the next 8 years that it will at least keep up with inflation, although that is not a 100% safe assumption. It hasn't always done that. So, you know, you could be in a scenario where gold's at 20 trillion and Bitcoin's at 30. I do think Bitcoin will flip gold ultimately.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine it could do it next year.
That's fast.
There's a chance. So you're saying there's a chance.
there's definitely a chance. So it would have to get to 700,000-ish to pass gold. Unless, of course, gold pulls way back at the same time. CleanSpark 100 said, the ARK K fund is down 6% year to date. It's where money goes to die. So... She had a year.
Wow.
She had a year.
How'd she have a good 23?
Yeah, 2023 was a good year. I think it was 2020. But that was when, you know, all of these things, there was a giant bubble. And the ARK Invest Fund got to like $150 or $160. I may not be remembering exactly correctly. Let's just take a look. And then I got one more important chart I think we should look at as well. Go to the weekly. I mean, you can see we're down here at 50. So this peaked at $159 in February of 2021. So if you guys remember, December of 2020, January, February of 2021, there was the high growth stocks just went into this insane bubble. So I had a list at one point. I had literally hundreds of stocks on my list that were down between 90 and 99% from their high somewhere in January or February of 2021. Now, a lot of other stocks held on. There was another peak in November of 2021. The ARK Invest Fund didn't make it there. This probably November. So, you know, they were still kind of going sideways and still at $125. But you can see, I mean, if you invested at the top, you know, which hopefully nobody did, you're still down almost 70% in this fund. So, you know, but look at this. This is what put her on the map. From March of 2020, which we all remember what March of 2020 was, until February of 2021, if you were in the ARK K fund, that was almost a 400% return in this ETF. So, you know, it seemed like ARK could do no wrong. But unfortunately, since that peak, it has never been the same. So,
do you think it'll do that again ever?
I don't think it's ever going to do this again, but I will tell you, I do think when she's invested almost exclusively in risk on assets. They're not necessarily small cap, but they're high growth, they're risk on. And so, you know, her portfolio has taken a beating. There are certain things in there that have run. She's in Coinbase and some other things that have done quite well recently. You know, and from the bottom, it's hard to even notice this, but from the bottom, you know, well, that's only 44%. So even that, I mean, even at the top, this was up 60%. So, you know, no gigantic moves here in this thing. And it's been, I will say, you know, you could say it's consolidating. But the thing is, all of those stocks have not even begun their run back. So this is to me that same Russell 2000 type of a trade. I think that's what's next. The Fed kind of slowing down a little bit with the rate cuts, I think has deferred what I believe is going to happen. So I do think third quarter of 2024, fourth quarter of 2024, and then maybe in 2025, this fund will do well. But I would rather be in, I'm in, I'll show you, not financial advice, of course. I don't talk about a lot of my other stuff I'm in, but I'm just building out a position in the URTY, which is a 2x leverage on the Russell 2000. You can see, I mean, again, this one peaked in November of 2021. And so I told you February and November were kind of the two peaks in 2021. So this is when the Russell peaked. I mean, we're years later, and, you know, the Russell's down 65% from its high in, you know, 2.5 years. So that is not a good run. The Russell's down. I mean, look how far back you can go. You can go back to, the Russell is not where, well, this is the URTY. This is not the Russell, sorry. So that's not true. This is a 2x leverage. The Russell isn't performing this badly. But the Russell is less today than it was 3 years ago. Where at the same time, the S&P 500 just hit an all-time high a week ago, and the NASDAQ just hit an all-time high a week ago. So whereas those two are at their all-time highs, or just, you know, a week and a half off of them, the Russell 2000 is down over the last 3-year period. So this is a 2x leverage of that. Always, of course, number one, not financial advice. Number two, this is another leveraged play. So please be very careful. If you want to add this to your watch list, figure out how it works, watch how it works. Because, you know, these leverage plays, these movements sometimes can be very disturbing. And to me, I think this is a 1.5-year play. I could be wrong. The other thing that I want to look at that I'm surprised nobody's mentioned, although, again, maybe they have and it's hard for me to keep up in the chat, is the old DXY, which unfortunately is back off to the races. This bottomed out on March 8th, and you can see, other than, you know, it's had 2 red days, but these last 2 days in particular, this has accelerated to the upside. It passed through this green line. This was, when it got to this green line in April of 2022, that was a 20-year high for the dollar. So this broke through a 20-year high, and you can see it's been going above and below this ever since. And to me, when it gets above this, it's not good for cryptocurrency. It's not good for the Bitcoin miners. It's not really good for the stock market at all. This is unreasonably strong dollar versus, you know, from a historical perspective. If I do a 1 week, you'll get a better perspective on this historically. I mean, look where the dollar usually is. You know, this is, you got to go all the way back to, well, we tested this in 2017, but you have to go all the way back to 2002 is the last time we ran up above this. So, you know, from 2002 to 2022, that's 20 years. We broke out above this. And if I zoom back in, it does tend to be that every time we get above this, first of all, this trend up, this is a couple weeks now. So that's another thing I'll say. Bitcoin's been pretty sideways inside of a big move up in the DXY. In the past, this has tanked Bitcoin. So I do think Bitcoin's held its own for all the many things that are going against it. The outflows this week in the spot ETFs went against it. The run up in the DXY historically would mean bad things for Bitcoin, and it withstood all that and had an okay week. And the Bitcoin miners, for the most part, when I do my charts this weekend, you're going to see they're going to be in the green this week. So we'll just check out a couple. Right, we'll check out the big one. Marathon is the largest one. So this was last Friday. So you can see this is where we closed last Friday. So it's not like this is a monumental move to the upside, but while Bitcoin was down on the week, Marathon was up almost 8% this week. Cleanspark, which feels like, you got decimated, but you didn't, because this was last Friday. Where is that? Right here. So Cleanspark was up 12% this week. In a week where Bitcoin was, if we go to the one-day chart on Bitcoin. So this was Friday. So you can see this was the close on Friday, assuming we closed somewhere around here. Bitcoin was down 10% this week. Yet, the Bitcoin miners, for the most part, you're going to see we're in the green. And we've been talking about this, and I will tell you, for those of you who joined us on last Friday's live stream, we started talking about this big time on the live stream last Friday, that it looked like after 11 plus weeks of the Bitcoin miners behaving badly, it looked like maybe they were starting to get back on track. So that happened on Friday, and then it happened Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So, we talked about this every single day last week, and we hit this hard in the members only on Tuesday, and it has played out that way. So we'll see. I think, it was about 11.5 to 12 weeks where the Bitcoin miners pretty dramatically underperformed Bitcoin. I'll show you that chart. I think we're done with that. I think we now are in a world where, despite the fact that today was a red day across the board, we're still up on a week where Bitcoin was down 10%. So I'm optimistic that the price action on the Bitcoin miners is going to start moving in the right direction. Now, obviously, if Bitcoin pulls back another 5 or 10%, don't expect gigantic things out of the Bitcoin miners during that part of the pullback, but I think they'll behave better than Bitcoin. And if we look, let me get to that chart. Where'd it go? What happens here? Okay, so I think this is year to date. So this is as of last Friday, not counting this week. So you can see, other than Cleanspark, which was up 58%, and at that time Bitcoin was up 64%. So Cleanspark's flipped Bitcoin. It's now ahead of Bitcoin year to date. Every other Bitcoin miner was in the red year to date. So you can see there was and if we go to, this is the 14 weeks. So this was, 11 and a half weeks. It's even, the last couple of trading days in December were a train wreck for the Bitcoin miners. So, Bitcoin up 59%. You'll see a lot of these Bitcoin miners down between 45 and 67% in that time frame. So we've been talking about the fact, I think, this is, this will end and the Bitcoin miners will start to recover. And I think we've seen that. We definitely, this week, that's what happened. Now, is this the beginning of, a trend that continues? We'll see. 1 week's obviously too soon to say it's done deal, but it's a very encouraging week that we had, as we have a big red 15-minute candle at the moment. So we're at 62.5. So we'll see. We got a long weekend ahead. There's every chance we do go down and test some lower numbers. You know, you don't have the spot ETFs buying and selling over the weekend. Now, this week, the spot ETFs were an outflow all week, so they weren't a help anyway. But it's entirely possible we go reset. We'll see what happens. Do you think Bitcoin in the next 8 years hits $1.5 million? That is the current poll. You can vote. Voting is free, and it's almost an exact tie right now. So we'll leave this open a few more minutes. We got a tie. Well, it's actually...
Oh, no. No ties.
Well, 51% yes, 49% no. We're within the margin of error. So vote, and a bunch of votes just came in, and it's staying the same. We'll see what happens. Of course, the big news this week that we didn't talk about at all was the Fed. For some reason, everybody acted like they were very, very surprised at what the Fed had to say. So I feel like people just watch what the market does, and then they create a narrative to explain why. Because I was not surprised by what the Fed said. This is exactly what we talked about here. There was one thing I said I was worried about. I'll go into that in a second. And, you know, so there was one little piece of maybe good news that you could have taken away. But everything else to me was almost just basically exactly what they've been saying. Midway, thank you for the super chat. Midway said, why do you think Cypher ran up so far ahead of the other similar medium market cap ones like Bitfarms and Iris? Is it because Cypher isn't doing much dilution? I don't know why Cypher. I wish I could just sit here and rattle off some reasons why Cypher outperformed this week. I'm not sure why. I mean, TeraWolf, you know, TeraWolf had was the winner today, but I know Cypher was, you know, let's take a look at their weekly chart. They were off to the races. Cypher was at $3.53 last Friday, and they are now, even after a day where they're down 4%, they're at $4.62. So let's go to that chart and just make sure those numbers are correct. So if we go to last Friday, which was a big green day, so the run-up had already started, but Friday was a green day for the Bitcoin miners. It was a spectacular day. And this closed at $3.53. So this was up, even including today, this was up 30% this week. So we just looked at a couple of the other miners. They were up 7%, 10%. Which is a great week in a week where Bitcoin was down 10%. But yeah, to your point, Cypher was up 30%, and that's after a big day on Friday. So if you count Friday, from Friday to Friday, which is really 6 days, that's almost 50%. And at one point at its peak, it was up over 60%. So very nice run from Cypher. It's hard to explain why some of these move when they move, and that's why I don't try to time this stuff, because, you know, sometimes there is a specific reason. You know, I think Iris had a worse than average day because, you know, they filed something with the SEC, and they talked about another $200 million in offerings, which was still a part of the $500 million they already told us about, but still the market moved them down a little bit. But sometimes, you know, it's almost just their turn. And these do not necessarily always move in tandem. We do tend to have outliers. And if you want to talk about outliers, if we go back to this chart, if I go back to the year to date, is that here? I mean, Cleanspark, look how much Cleanspark has run out ahead of the field. I mean, they're 70% ahead of the next closest Bitcoin miner in the year 2024. So does that mean that all the rest of these Bitcoin miners are awful? I don't think so. I think a lot of these are going to do a lot of catching up. I think a lot of these will end the year ahead of Bitcoin. And that seems crazy. It's when you look at this chart right now, that seems very difficult to believe that any of these are going to catch up and pass Bitcoin. But it is my opinion, and I'll say for the millionth time, I do think this cycle is different for the Bitcoin miners. I think there will be winners and losers. I don't think it's everything to the moon. So, please do your due diligence and choose wisely. But I think the winners are going to pass Bitcoin. And let's see if we have this. This is last year's year. So in 2023, this is what the Bitcoin miners did. Here's Bitcoin up 154%. And this is from the open of the equity markets, the first day of the year to the close of the last day of the year. So Bitcoin up 154%. And you can see from Riot on, between 356% and 638%. I'm not counting Core Scientific, which was in Chapter 11, which got down to 4 cents. So had, an astronomical run from there of over 1,800%. But, Cypher was up 638% last year. Marathon, the biggest by market cap, was up 587%. I don't think you're going to see these numbers in back-to-back years. So, I don't think you're going to see a Cypher up 600% last year and another 600% this year. Because remember, that's compounding on top of the 600%. So, but I do think you're going to see nice big numbers. I feel like the Bitcoin miners are going to have I'm very bullish for 2024 and for 2025 for the Bitcoin miners. Now, maybe not all the way straight through to December 31st, 2025. We'll probably have our peak sometime in the middle. So yes, I'll have an exit strategy for a lot of these, in that period of time. So that's the other thing we always talk about is I hope everybody has a plan. Have your plan, know your plan, write your plan down, recite your plan so that on bad days, on days where you want to do things that are not your plan, it's very hard on the super volatile days to stick to the program. So for those of you who have done so and benefited, congratulations.
The plan's to make money, Tom.
That's right. The big picture topic sentence, the plan is to make money. That's right. But you got to drill down and be a little more specific on a stock-by-stock basis.
It's so funny. I'm buying Riot share right now. Riots. And it's so funny that somebody always sells 2 shares. I think they're trying to figure out. Yeah, 2.
Why bother? Kevin K, thank you for being a member. Thanks for the super chat. Kevin K said, this according to Kevin K, Nancy Pelosi has acquired $5 million in shares of a company named, like stock ticker FRGE. I don't know this company. Rumor has it the Pelosi's have a pretty good track record in the stock market.
Who is Nancy Pelosi? Should I know that name?
I don't know if you should know that name.
I'm just asking. Asking for a friend.
For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, Nancy Pelosi is a politician here in the U.S.
Thanks, Jeff. Tom also loves Riot. It disturbs me. Somebody wrote something about the county didn't approve their plans or something like that. Did you hear that, Tom?
No, I did not hear that. So I'll look this weekend to see if there's any updates. I mean, I know their Corsicana plan's already a done deal, so I'm not sure if there's a specific bump in the road that you're in construction. You could write the book on that.
In the road. Yeah.
Right.
It's just because somebody didn't get their money. Did I say that out loud?
I can neither confirm nor deny that statement.
Oh, Kevin says she's a politician. All politicians are honest, good people like George Washington.
Yes, indeed,
Bless
of course.
You. Keep it simple. Bet on micro sailor. Period. That's from. I just know it's Edmund, so I can say that's Edmund. There are no bad people in the world. I agree with that.
There's no, I won't tell you what my old boss used to say because it was not nice. He was not nice.
I got Tom stumped. I start talking, and then he gets like verklempt.
I see a couple people saying thoughts on Bitfarms. One person was asking, why is Bitfarms lagging? My answer to that is I'm going to go back to this chart. Bitfarms really is not lagging. I know it feels like that, and that is one of the most common questions that I get. But if you look at this chart, Bitfarms is down 22% year to date. So that is among the leaders out of all the Bitcoin miners. You know, it's striking distance. And when we update the chart this week, we'll see where everybody is. For a lot of the last 7 or 8 months, and if I go, let me go back to that period of time. If we go back from July 14th of 2023, so that's now 252 days ago. But as of this chart, it was 245 days ago, just about 9 months. In that 9-month period, Bitfarms was the second best performing Bitcoin miner out of all the Bitcoin miners. Yet, one of the top 5 comments that I continually get is, why is Bitfarms underperforming all the other Bitcoin miners by so much? And I think there's a reason for that. It's because of its price point. Its its value. If we go take a look, I mean, you got Marathon at $20, Riot at $10, CleanSpark at $20. Bitfarms is at $2.31. Even Cypher is, at $4.62. That's double. So the price action feels better at $5 and $7 and $8 and $20. So when Bitfarms goes from $1 to $2.30, that $1.30 is a much bigger move than these other companies. On your investment, that's return on investment. So I would just tell everybody that is frustrated with Bitfarms. And again, make your own plan if you've had it with Bitfarms and if you have some fundamental reason why you want out. But if you think it's because their stock is lagging, I mean, this is not my opinion. This is what happened in these 245 days. In runaway first place is CleanSpark. Bitcoin in that time frame, is up well over 100%. And then Bitfarms is in 3rd place. Marathon, by the way, in 4th place. The only other one that's even green in that period is a small cap / nano cap, DMG, which is there's some things I like about this company, but the smaller the company, the higher the risk reward. So for those of you interested, there's some very small companies down here in some of these. So I know it does feel like that, and I feel the same way sometimes. Like, man, why can't Bitcoin just why can't Bitfarms just do its thing? But it's really just kind of doing what everything else is doing, and in some ways, it's actually doing a little better.
I got one for you. I've had an order on Bitfarms after hours because I didn't see the 4 o'clock. You know how 4 o'clock, you're waiting for it, and then you just miss it?
Yeah.
And I've had an order for 2,500 shares for 2.31, and nobody will sell it, and it's 2.32. What the ask is.
You're arguing over a penny in after hours?
Absolutely.
So
bid is 2.32, ask is 2.33.
I'm just going to a penny in after hours. If that thing runs, if Bitcoin runs over the weekend, you're going to be kicking yourself on Monday.
Oh,
Not financial advice, do whatever you want. I just want to point out, Darren, who wanted us to get that chart up, said, Bitcoin just bounced off my line on my chart in the members Discord. So for those of you who are members, you can check out that chart in the members only Discord. So it looks like on the Bitcoin Coinbase chart that I'm on, we got down to $62,709. So that is the low of the day. That, I think, is the low of the week. Although we did have that day. So it's not the low of the week. Just 2 days. See, that's how fast time flies. Just 2 days ago, we were down at 60,771. So we did get under 61,000 this week. Candle
I
wick,
still think we have another week of this, just so you know.
more pain, sideways and down, maybe.
Sideways, yeah. Just because something's happening in the world that happens one time a month. In the universe, I should say.
Something's happening in the solar system.
Yeah,
perhaps.
the solar system. Yep.
Barry C. Thank you, Barry C. Barry C is busting my chops. Hashtag didn't age well.
What didn't age well?
Barry knows that that's one of my favorite comments in the comments section. This didn't age well. And we'll pull up MicroStrategy for Edmund, who is now MicroStrategy to 20,000, because that has had a spectacular run. I am worried that it might be a little bit out ahead of itself, but that's what I thought, and then it tripled. So I missed that run. So it's off of its highs. I mean, this did get over 1,800 last Friday, but, you know, if you go from February 26th, so less than 1 month ago, to the peak, this was up 164%. Even to today, it's more than a double. So MicroStrategy has more than doubled in less than a month. So that is far outpacing what Bitcoin did in that period of time. So, massive run up.
And if you think about it, that's kind of weird.
That MicroStrategy would run up that much more?
Yeah.
This is why I'm a little bit worried. Their market cap at one point was worth double what the Bitcoin on their balance sheet was worth. This is a massive run up that's outpaced Bitcoin. Now, listen, I didn't see this run coming. I sold a lot. This is one of the only things I make almost no swing trades. I caught a big run up in MicroStrategy, what I thought was a big run up, only I missed all of this. I got some of this. And that was a quick, big run up. So I was like, yep, that's a win. I'm out. Only to find out, you know, from here, it more than doubled. So I missed that whole thing. So congratulations to Edmund, now MicroStrategy to 20K, who caught that whole thing. And this may continue to run. And they continue to buy Bitcoin. I mean, no one else is doing what they're doing. It's incredible. They're, you know, assuming Bitcoin goes up over time, it's a very, this is simple genius. Sometimes the best plans are the simplest plans. You borrow money, and it's long-term money. A lot of it's convertible, so they're never going to have to pay it back. And it's low interest. It's out many years. So, you know, you get to borrow it to buy an asset. And, you know, if you think that asset's going to go up 1,000% in the middle, you know, then it's free money. It's free money.
I got to leave in like 2 minutes.
All right, well,
Becky just got back from New York.
Oh, all right. Well, it's just about that time anyway. Any other thoughts? Any parting thoughts? I know this was a little bit of a tough
Saturday,
day.
1 o'clock for members on the Discord.
All right.
Guys.
Saturday, 1 o'clock with George. Members on the Discord. Thank you to all of our members. Special thanks. Thanks to all of our subscribers. And thanks to everybody that showed up to the live stream. A little bit of a down day for Bitcoin. It seems like a little bit of a majority thinks maybe we're going to retest some lows. We had a red day today. I will put the weekly charts up this weekend, recapping what happened this week. But you can see it looks like the Bitcoin miners had a decent week. So thank you very much, everybody.
I went up on the penny. Let's see if I got them.
And they probably went up a penny. Did you get it?
No, I got them at the penny. I went up the penny. So, thanks for not giving me financial advice, Tom.
And thank you, Sour Melon Gaming, for the random thought of the day.
What was it?
Tom, your hair is on point today. Thank you. I do the same thing every day, so I don't know what's going on. But thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bitcoin to the moon.
See you guys.
Everybody have a great night. Have a great weekend.